Awesome. Thank you. So the Node Security Project is really a community project, and it needs a community behind it. And so I'm going to need your help right now. So please stand up. Really, really need your help. We can't do this without you. It's a community thing. So when I say Node, you say community. Node! And then when we're going to do another piece where when I say Node, you say security. So it's really complex, but let's see what we can do. Okay. All right. Node! Wow, you guys are okay. No, seriously, crazy. Let's get crazy. This is important. Imagine that this is what everything that we're working for depends on. Node. 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 Yeah, that's right. Okay. I believe that Node security is the future. Audit modules and do some pull requests. Show them all the phones they possess inside. Stop. Oh, what's up?
This is a malicious Node PDX module. Out. Away with you. All right. So, how many of you actually thought that was me? Anybody believe? Few of you? All right, and I know he didn't, but so that was ridiculous. I have a horrible voice today, so I apologize for that. Other ear. Yeah, it doesn't work. That work? Better? Okay, whatever. All right, so let's get cracking. I'm Adam. I am actually Adam Baldwin, not Adam Brault, who was the imposter Adam. You all trusted that potentially he was me, just like with Node modules. You're trusting them in your code base, right? So I am the real Adam. You can find me on Twitter here at Adam_Baldwin, Lyft Security, and Node Security, as well as on GitHub as Evil Packet. So, Node Security. This whole project is stemmed around kind of a story that I like to tell about when I got started in Node. I got started in Node Security when we started at And Yet building And Bang. Basically, I was wondering how I could actually compromise our service, right? And so I started thinking about it, and we wrote tests, and we did testing, and all that stuff that you normally do, and then I was like, wait! We're installing all of these modules that other people wrote, and you guys may be great developers, but I don't trust any one of you. That's just my nature. And so I started looking at NPM. It's like, okay, so how easy would it be for me to actually modify a module or get something malicious out there? And so I was looking at NPM, and Couch has this admin party thing, and they also happen to publish the SHA passwords for the users. And this has since been fixed, but it got pointed out, and guess what? There was a lot of easy passwords to crack. There's a lot of users out there with really important modules that get a lot of downloads and a lot of use that I could have just logged in and did a force push, and that would have been bad. So that's where it all sort of began. Then it moved on to adding CSRF protection to the NPM website, cross-site request forgery protection, in which I did something a little bit different than security researchers normally do. Instead of just saying, hey, Isaac, you've got a problem here, go fix it, right? I submitted a pull request. And he didn't necessarily like my implementation, but it got fixed. And that's kind of the point. And that's going to be kind of a premise to what I'm going off of here. So, Node Security Project is where I ended up, and this is kind of the idea and the culmination of thoughts is, all right, so we've got all these modules, we've got all of these modules out there. How can we validate the security of them? And I'll be honest with you, the Node Security Project is basically an experiment. It's an experiment to see if we, the Node security community, can do security better than, or differently and better than any other community out there. Better than the Ruby community, better than the Python community. And the reality is I love the Node community. I love each and every one of you, and I would be hard-pressed to try this experiment in any other community. The support behind this in just the first couple of weeks has been amazing. 400 Twitter followers, 30-some people on the mailing list, Node firms, happily standing behind it, and yet Lyft, and a lot of security researchers and a lot of developers. There's a lot of interest in what we're doing. It's really exciting to have that kind of support. It makes me want to continue. So this project is basically bridging two communities that don't necessarily play nice together. Security researchers, right? We don't play well with others. We just say, hey, you got a problem in your code, go fix it, and we're going to publish a Node, and we're happy, and we do our little dance, and then it gets fixed, and we move on to the next project, right? And the development community, we need their help, because we're not just going to do things where we point and say, here's a problem. We're going to submit pull requests. The projects, we're going to actually try to do things a little bit differently. Here's some major contributors just off the start that are really contributing from the base. Adam Brault, Nathan Lafreniere, Bear, Michael Rogers, D. Shaw, huge supporters and initial contributors of the project. Neil Poole, a security researcher, Luca Caratoni, Stephen Rivas, who's actually just a developer. He's building our portal. Arlo Brault and Jacopo Tarantino, just to give them some credit, because that's who's doing this. I can't do this alone. I started the project. We start with auditing every module. That's the first goal of what we're doing. And I looked at it and I said, I can't keep up with I couldn't keep up with what he's putting out, right? Like when I submitted this talk, there was 27,000 modules, and there's that many it's probably higher than that now, right? As of just a few minutes ago. I can't keep up with that. So what we're doing is the first step of the project is to audit all of the modules. And when I say that to people, they say, how are you going to keep up? And why audit every module? Why not just pick the top 20? Because if you look at silly modules that you may not think are worth anything, they might have got downloaded 100 times in the last day. People are using these things that are 2 years old and outdated that may have problems in them. And so we need to look across the whole thing. But how are we going to do that, right? How can we keep up? We can't just go module to module. We're going to run things in basically small initiatives. This is the only way that I figure, and I love feedback if you think differently, on how we can actually keep up. We're going to run initiatives where we say, let's look at this particular security problem across the entire module base. So we're going to look for, our first initiative is childprocess.exec, right? You put in untrusted user input into childprocess.exec, and what happens? Command execution, right? So put that in the wrong situation, and you have a problem. You've got a module that's using this, and you're happily passing input to this module, and it just takes it and runs it. So instead of one module at a time, we cannot keep up doing all of the things on each module. What we're going to do is basically run these initiatives and version them so we know if we've gone over all the module base, and you'll be able to look up each individual modules, and you'll be able to just say, what has the project looked at for this particular module? What are the things we'll have an explanation for, why it's a problem or whatever. Is it clean? Did we find something? And hopefully it gets fixed, and you can, you the developer have that information then at your sort of disposal. So after we've audited all the things, right, the next step is to fix the broken things, right? Most security projects and security researchers don't get to this point because we don't care. We've got our high from actually finding the vulnerability and pointing it out, and then we're done. You go fix your problem, and I'm moving on to the next thing, as I mentioned. And so we're going to try to do this a little bit differently than in the past. And this is what's going to hopefully set us apart from other projects, right? So standard things, we're going to report the issues we find. we've gotten some pushback, very, very little pushback on this, just sort of adding issues to repositories and making them public, right? Excuse me. Some things are important enough that we should contact users privately, right? But oftentimes emails will bounce or emails aren't updated on repositories, or there's modules that don't have repositories and there's no email address, and I have no idea how the hell to get a hold of people. What do we do then, right? So we're trying to do the best we can to manage that process. We're going to piss a few people off, but in the end, we're going to get things fixed. So, we have no ill intent to just put people in harm's way. We're going to send pull requests. Like I said, there's two halves of this, finding problems and fixing them. The projects that don't have a maintainer that can maintain them anymore, that are 2 years old, and we're going to try, we've had a couple instances where we've had pull requests just accepted where they've ignored the issue for a number of weeks. So it's just like, well, yeah, I'll just merge your pull request, cool. And that's got its own problem, just trusting our code or whatever, but it's worked well so far. People have been welcoming of the pull requests versus just pointing and laughing. So here's an example of the kind of communication that we're going to encounter, the kind of things that we're going to end up with, and there's actually a lot of positive that comes out of this this particular thing. It's Hubot scripts is the module, and there's a lot more communication that went on other than this. This is what I'm going to talk about though. So our researcher, if you can't read that, Neil Poole, I submitted an issue that said, hey, here's command execution and Hubot in the email script on Hubot. If you enable it and you put the right parameters in, it'll execute script. So at midnight, this issue just got closed. No comment, closed. Okay, what, all right. So Neil says, I think he may have closed the wrong issue, right? The code's still vulnerable. We got a response back that said, I closed the correct issue. Hubot is meant to be run in a trusted environment. If you don't trust the people you'll access Hubot to, I think you should stop allowing them access to Hubot. That's a valid point. And Neil's sort of response was, can appreciate that. There's nothing that says that Hubot has to be run in a trusted environment. It's open source. People are going to do crazy stuff with it. That's just sort of the way it is. If you notice the tone of these responses too, they're not attacking like a lot of typical security rebuttals, like you don't appreciate what I'm doing, so I'm just going to get angry and. So we're trying to be very professional, explaining and whatever. The second thing is that even if you guarantee that it did exist, if you give somebody access to Hubot, that doesn't mean you also give them access to executing code on your server, right? Like as that particular Hubot user. So if that's the case, you should make a Hubot plugin that executes script and give them access to that. So and then he said, it's fairly straightforward. Would you consider accepting a pull request? And sure enough, pull request sent, merged, done, and it wasn't a problem anymore. Pushed, fixed. So there's a lot of things that Neil did right here. The tone of his responses, the fact that he was persistent, the fact that he didn't get upset. This is the kind of positive interaction that we want with developers, and it's going to be a fighting battle. So final thing is to publish the results. This is actually sort of not just publishing the issues on repositories publicly. There's been some people that have mentioned publicly, if we publish the results, aren't we creating more of a problem than we're fixing? And in some cases, it's debatable, but we're really trying to put this information in the hands of developers so what modules and code that you're using. You should be already aware of that, but if you're not, you can easily tell what we've looked at and if it's got these certain classes of vulnerabilities. So what we're going to do is we're actually publishing them out on the portal.nodesecurity.io site. Please abuse it and tell us all the problems that you find. It's still very, very, very fresh. These are the first few advisories that are going to go out that have gotten fixed. An authentication bypass in Tomato. Basically, if you it was looking at index of on a string, even though it expected an array. So if you had a key this long, you just pick one letter and you'd get access to the API. Qbot scripts, command execution, and libnotify command execution. We've got about 10 more in the pipeline from this particular initiative that are getting fixed. And we should be wrapping that up in a couple of weeks. And then we'll move on. Again, this is very caveman-like initially. If you go obfuscate your code and you do, required child process and then name it something else and then, try to hide that particular code flow, we're not going to find it. We're using, grep and bash and we're not doing things elegantly. We're hoping to grow this and improve it over time. If somebody is really great at static analysis and taint checking and stuff like that, please help me because I don't know how to do that stuff. I'm learning, but we need help. So how to contribute? That's last, right? How to contribute? We've got information out on nodesecurity.io, which basically says join the mailing list. The node auditor or the node security auditors list is it's private. I'm not letting anybody in there. We're doing some vetting, making sure that lurkers basically aren't too desired. Mostly because we're talking about some of these things and we don't want you just camping and saying, well, here's something I can take advantage of and now going off on your own and trying to exploit that. It's a hard thing to manage. We're going to try to do our best at doing that. IRC channel on Freenode, Node Security, and let's see. That's it. Adam Baldwin from Lift Security.